Hey everyone, this is Steve Margio with Class A Surfacing. Today I'm going to talk about flattening and forming. It's a new tool that NX has introduced in NX 11, and it's a great tool which allows you to take a surface, as you see here, and flatten it to get the flat pattern. Now, flat patterns are important for sheet metal parts, cloth parts, and when I say cloth parts, I mean composites, things that are going to be laid up with maybe fiberglass sheet or something really fancy where you got Kevlar or everyone's big on carbon fiber, that type of thing. So you don't want to waste any material, and you want to make sure that the cuts that you make are going to be correct. So you want to flatten the shape. So in this case, I have a relatively simple shape. This will work with very complex shapes. So if I go into Surface, I'm going to go into More, and under here you'll see the Flattening and Forming option. Now, type flattening. I'm going to leave it at flattening, and what face do I want to flatten? I want to flatten this face. Now it's going to ask for an origin. Basically, it needs to flatten to some place, and that place is, I'm going to use a point on the surface. Let's just use this point right at the edge, right over here, outermost point in this case. And what is my primary direction? I'll pick, in this case, the Y. And what it does is, as you can see, it lays out the plane, and it rolls out that flattened surface out to that point. I'm going to select OK. Now you can see there's my flattened surface. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Curve. Well, I'm sorry, not Curve, but I'm going to go into Home, and I'm going to come into here and I'm going to say Extract Geometry. And I want to extract a non-associative composite curve. Select OK. Now that I have that non-associative composite curve, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go up to, we'll just say this point, I'm going to say Make Current Feature. And the reason why I'm going to do this is I'm going to punch several holes in this sheet body. And I'm going to select, make sure it says Subtract. I'm going to select OK. And there is my surface with all those holes. Now I'm going to come back over to my composite curve, right mouse click, and I'm going to say Make Current Feature. And the reason why I did that is I want you to see that based off of what this initial surface, the holes, everything look like, you're going to end up with differences on those perimeters. And this is why it's important to make sure that you have your cutouts, all your features in on that flattened surface if that's what the final surface is going to look like. Now, these may be post operations, meaning that once the surface is formed, then I make those cutouts. But if this is a pre-formed operation where I have to make those cutouts initially, I want to make sure that those cutouts are in. That way, when I form it, everything goes into the correct location. And I have the proper trim edge. So you can see here is my composite curve. There is a big difference to that surface based off of having those holes in not. Now, there are times when, I'm just going to undo this, just take this back to here without the composite curve. There are times when I may need to take and flatten this, draw a shape on that flattened surface, and then have that wrap around that the original shape. I may have a form that I need to use in the flattened state, and once it's formed, it's going to distort a little bit, but that may be necessary. That may be what you need. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and draw a sketch. So if I draw that sketch, let's say on this flattened surface, select OK, and here I'll just draw a couple of circles just to make it easy for me. Finish my sketch. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead into Surface. I'm going to say Trim Sheet. Now you don't have to do the trim sheet, but I'm just doing this just so you can see it. So if you want to, you can trim to those. Okay, and again, you don't have to do the trim, but again, I'm just showing you that, yeah, this is an actual surface. You can do what you need to do with it. You can make the modifications, and in this case, I am going to reform these back onto this original surface. So with this, I'm going to go back into, make sure I'm in surface. I'm going to go back into flatten and forming, and then from here, I'm going to take and say forming and reuse. So what's my flattened feature? This is my flattened feature. What do I want to transform? Well, as you can see, I'm going to pick this curve out of that sketch. And again, I'm just showing you, right? You can pick the edge off of that surface if you want to. And I'm going to pick this and this one, this, and so on. And what ends up happening is that those are now wrapped onto that surface. Okay, let me go ahead and hide this. Now, I'm going to change the color of these curves. Let's make them, you know what, let's go magenta. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in a curve. I'm going to project this onto this surface. What's my direction? That, and reverse it. And as you can see, there is a difference in those shapes. In some cases, it's fairly drastic. Even if I say face normal, you can see that there's a big difference in those shapes. So that wrapping of those curves, again, maybe you have a shape that you need to use in the flattened form, and then that's going to wrap, and however it wraps, does whatever it does. But this is a far more accurate representation of that wrap shape. So you're no longer guessing. So that's really a very powerful tool. Allows you to do things quickly. Again, this is great for sheet metal parts, composite parts, anything with lots of layers and plies. You may need to take a couple of the layers, flatten them out, put your shapes on there, wrap those shapes back into place. And so flattening and forming allows you to do that. Great tool. Thank you.